is rationing electricity and telling citizens to do the same.
Iran is running out of electricity, out of water, and out of excuses. In a nation sitting on some of the world's largest oil and gas reserves, millions of people are spending 8 to 10 hours a day in the dark. Streets from Shiraz to Tehran are erupting with anger, and chants that began with frustration over failing utilities have transformed into open defiance against the regime. Protesters shout, "Water and electricity are our undeniable right." And the message is clear. The crisis is no longer technical, it's political, national, and existential. Tonight, we uncover how Iran, an energy giant, became trapped in one of the worst electricity collapses in its modern history, why citizens are protesting, and how Tehran's reliance on Russia and China could reshape the future of the Middle East. Iran, despite sitting on the world's second-largest gas reserves and fourth-largest crude oil reserves, is facing an unprecedented energy crisis. By February 2025, over 70% of the country experienced unannounced blackouts, some lasting hours or even days. By August, 16 of Iran's 31 provinces were forced into complete shutdowns, with schools, government offices, and streetlights in Tehran going dark. Across cities like Shiraz, Kazan, and Tehran, citizens are now enduring 8 to 10 hours of electricity cuts every day, leaving homes dark, water pumps offline, and businesses struggling to survive. President Masoud Pezeshkian publicly pleaded with citizens to lower home temperatures by 2 degrees Celsius to reduce the burden on the grid. Decades of policy distortions, underinvestment, and international isolation have left Iran's energy infrastructure in severe disrepair. More than 86% of electricity comes from gas-fired plants, making the system extremely vulnerable to supply disruptions. Shortages have forced authorities to burn mazout, a cheap but polluting heavy fuel oil, worsening an already dire environmental situation. Iran's energy intensity, the energy used per unit of GDP, is among the highest in the world, yet efficiency remains abysmally low. The government spends an estimated $127 billion annually on energy subsidies, entrenching waste while limiting funds for essential infrastructure upgrades. In late 2025, President Pezeshkian warned that Iran's energy system, costing roughly $180 billion a year, is untenable without structural reforms and broad national cooperation. Compounding these internal issues, June military strikes by Israel and the U.S. targeted nuclear sites, oil storage, and power infrastructure, further disrupting the grid. Cyber vulnerabilities, outdated control systems, and fragmented oversight have made the electricity network increasingly susceptible to both foreign and domestic attacks. The result is a nation caught in a chronic energy emergency, facing power shortages, industrial strain, and public frustration. With winter approaching, Iran's grid remains fragile, and another round of blackouts is all but inevitable, underscoring the limits of foreign partnerships and domestic solutions to address this immediate crisis. Iran's energy crisis is not merely a technical failure. It is a systemic collapse caused by decades of corruption and mismanagement, worsened by foreign pressure and direct attacks on critical infrastructure. At the heart of the problem is widespread corruption. Subsidized fuel, meant to help citizens, is smuggled abroad for profit. Lawmakers admit that around 1.5 billion liters of liquid fuel are illicitly diverted each year, often with forged documents, minimal penalties, and elite protection. This structural leak directly fuels blackouts and shortages. Mismanagement compounds the issue. Many power plants were privatized or handed to politically connected insiders who enriched themselves while failing to maintain or modernize facilities like the Abadan and Zagros plants, leaving the grid brittle. Iran's energy consumption per capita remains among the highest globally, yet generation capacity is fragile. The situation worsened with a devastating 12-day war in June 2025. Israeli strikes damaged oil storage sites, refineries, and power stations. A year earlier, Israel had blown up two major Iranian gas pipelines, disrupting supplies that provide roughly 70% of the country's energy use. To keep some plants running, the government burned mazout, a cheap but highly polluting fuel. These attacks exposed the grid's vulnerability, which lacked redundancy and modern safeguards. Sanctions and sabotage created a perfect storm. Even before the attacks, Iran suffered from over 86% of electricity from outdated gas-fired plants, transmission and distribution losses due to poor infrastructure, chronic underinvestment fueled by political cronyism. After the attacks, Iran had little choice but to turn to Russia for nuclear technology and China for solar and battery systems to stabilize its energy sector. President Masoud Pezeshkian captured the domestic tension perfectly, urging citizens to lower home temperatures by 2 degrees Celsius to ease the grid's burden. The plea highlighted a grim reality. Ordinary citizens must make sacrifices for survival, while those responsible for mismanagement remain largely unaccountable. The energy collapse is a story of self-inflicted wounds worsened by external pressure. Corruption drained resources, mismanagement crippled infrastructure, and attacks by Israel expose just how fragile Iran's system has become. As blackouts and corruption swept across Iran, frustration quickly escalated into nationwide protests. What began as complaints about failing electricity and water supplies turned into a political movement challenging the regime itself. On August 22, 2025, thousands took to the streets of Shiraz, Kazan, and Tehran, chanting, "Water and electricity are our undeniable right." As the crisis persisted, slogans grew explicitly political. "Death to the dictator. Iran is not your inheritance. No Gaza, no Lebanon, only the people of Iran." Workers at the Karun 4 dam and oil platforms in Ilam and Nasser protested firings and worsening conditions, while merchants in Tehran's Ferdowsi Passage decried high taxes, market stagnation, and electricity shortages threatening their businesses. The regime's response was brutal: tear gas, arrests, and confiscation of phones. Families of detainees were met with hostility, often told dismissively, "The judge is absent," and ordered to disperse. Despite the crackdown, protests spread. Across the country, Iranians were sending a clear message: the energy crisis is not just about electricity, it is about accountability and the legitimacy of the clerical regime. Observers note that the convergence of unrest from citizens, merchants, and industrial workers shows a growing perception that the regime itself is the source of suffering. These protests are more than a reaction to blackouts. They are a nationwide demand for systemic change. The streets of Iran, dark from blackouts yet bright with defiance, illustrate a nation at a crossroads, where the battle for light is also a struggle for political and social survival. As Iran struggles to keep the lights on and maintain basic services, its leadership has turned decisively toward its remaining allies, Russia and China. Faced with crippling sanctions, a collapsing energy sector, and growing domestic unrest, Tehran sees these two powers as indispensable lifelines, both for stabilizing its grid and projecting an image of resilience. With Russia, Tehran is betting on nuclear technology and energy expertise. Russian state nuclear agency Rosatom already operates Iran's Bushehr nuclear plant, and new agreements aim to construct 4 Generation 3 reactors in Hormozgan province, generating up to 5 gigawatts of electricity. Iran's long-term goal is to reach 20 gigawatts of nuclear capacity by 2040, including additional planned reactors. This partnership promises not only electricity, but also strategic political support, giving Tehran a shield against further Western pressure. The deal was formalized in September 2025, a $25 billion energy and nuclear cooperation agreement between Tehran and Moscow. The reactors, located in the coastal city of Sirak, directly across from the UAE and Oman, will be overseen by Rosatom, including both large-scale and small modular reactors (SMRs) under the Iran Hormuz nuclear power plant project. For Tehran, the deal serves multiple purposes. One, domestic reassurance, projecting technological self-reliance. Two, international signaling, demonstrating it will pursue civilian nuclear energy despite sanctions. Three, political leverage, strengthening ties with Moscow as Western sanctions limit other options. The agreement carries significant risks. Russian involvement deepens Tehran's reliance on Moscow for financing, technology, fuel, and expertise. With the UN rejecting a Russia-China resolution to delay snapback sanctions, doubts remain about reliable delivery of critical components. Even if construction proceeds, delays, cost overruns, and the threat of further Israeli or US strikes loom. Analysts warn that while the deal may help Iran's energy shortages in the medium to long term, it locks the country into strategic dependence on Moscow. With China, the focus is on renewables and modern energy infrastructure. Under the 25-year Comprehensive Cooperation Agreement, Beijing drives Iran's solar and battery ambitions, including a 200-megawatt solar plant in Bushehr, contracts with Sunrover and LDK Solar, and plans for 7 gigawatts of new solar capacity by 2025. China provides the hardware, investment, and supply chains long blocked by Western sanctions. With nearly 300 days of sunshine annually, solar energy is an ideal but challenging solution for Iran's strained grid. This pivot is geopolitical as well. Moscow strengthens a sanctions-proof partnership, while Beijing secures a key link in the Belt and Road Initiative. Yet heavy reliance on both powers creates asymmetric dependencies. Nuclear reactors tie Tehran to Russian fuel and maintenance for decades, and solar projects can be disrupted by political pressure or export controls. Tehran's strategy reflects desperation and ambition, aiming to stabilize the grid, project defiance, and secure political survival, while relying on partners whose interests may not align with Iran's long-term independence. As Iran teeters on the brink of an unprecedented energy and political crisis, the question becomes clear. What can the government realistically do to restore power, calm unrest, and secure its survival? Short-term measures. Intensify electricity and water rationing, though public backlash will grow. Conduct emergency repairs, though aging plants limit immediate gains. Crack down on fuel smuggling, which drains critical power resources. Accelerate foreign assistance from Russia and China, though nuclear reactors and solar plants are long-term solutions. Medium to long-term reforms. Modernize energy infrastructure to improve reliability. Reduce subsidies and improve pricing, saving billions and encouraging conservation. Diversify energy sources, including renewables, solar, and battery storage. Increase transparency and tackle corruption, ensuring power plants function efficiently. The choice is stark. Implement deep structural reforms or rely on foreign stopgaps while unrest continues. Without decisive action, the crisis will intensify, and temporary fixes like Russian reactors or Chinese solar panels will be insufficient to stabilize the country. Iran's energy crisis is more than a blackout. It is a window into a government struggling to survive. Rolling power cuts, water shortages, corruption, and failed infrastructure have left millions in darkness, while protests light up the streets with demands for accountability and change. Tehran's pivot toward Russia and China may offer temporary relief, but it also deepens dependence and delays the hard reforms Iran desperately needs. As winter approaches and blackouts continue, the question remains: can the regime stabilize the grid before it loses the confidence of its people entirely? One thing is clear: in Iran, energy is not just power, it is power itself.